week's presentation is on April 2nd, Food from the Hood, Converting Inner City Land to Farms, presented by Skip Wiener. In 1989, Skip, a native of West Philadelphia, began to run children's garden and farm programs. Over 2 decades, 7 acres of overgrown, derelict, open-air drug markets were converted to ecological teaching and learning gardens and inner-city farm production. Parents and grandparents joined their children, and the first Philly Black Low-Income Co-op was born. Thousands of pounds of food were harvested and sold annually at low-income farmers markets. Children were raised safe from drug gangs. The Black community was having its first dialogue about food-related diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure, and asthma. Together we're going to explore the use of this community development model for Lakeside. Skip has a master's degree in plant physiology and landscape architecture. He worked for the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection and the National Park Service and Rain Camp Consultants. That will be interesting. Today's meditation will be led by David Denning.
I like this. Everybody's looking at me. I was standing right over here about 20 minutes ago when this couple came in, obviously new to Open Circle, and confused me with somebody from the welcoming committee. And asked me a little bit about what to do, and I said, there's the coffee, there's some sandwiches. Go find yourself a seat and try not to bother anybody. And the idea for my meditation came, what's going on in your own heads that might be bothering you right now? Do you have any control over it? For example, your own health, the drivers out there. What about Mexican bureaucracy? Is there anything going on in there that's kind of swirling around in your brain like a bad wine? Are you willing to stop disliking that which you don't like? You can't not like, you can't decide to like something you don't like, but you can stop pouring Miracle Grow on it. So everybody sit in your seats. Let the chair hold you. You don't have to move a muscle. Take a deep breath. And consider what it is you don't like that might be interfering with your availability to hear the birds, feel the sun, and enjoy this day. And you release it. Think of something you don't like over which you have no control, and decide, I can let go of disliking that. I don't have to like it. I can let go of disliking that. For about 1 minute and 15 seconds, keep breathing. You can close your eyes if you like, and see what it is you can get rid of that you don't need in that brain of yours. Take a deep breath. You've got a minute. Another breath or two, and open your eyes and be present for our speaker. And for goodness sakes, please enjoy the day fully. Thank you.
presentation, Drug-Free Pain Management, presented by Mitchell Perey. Mitch will deliver an entertaining and possibly life-changing talk on pain relief and healing without drugs, drawing on his success with personal pain issues and client experiences. He will also discuss ways to overcome undesirable habits. Following ancient and modern practices of guided visualization, Mitchell has been helping people learn to work together with their inner MD to potentiate healing, reduce pain, and improve their lives. Since being credentialed in 1989 as a clinical hypnotherapist in California, Mitchell has been 3 years president of the International Association of Counselors and Therapists. He has maintained an educational and therapeutic practice in California and Lakeside, and he has lived permanently in Lakeside since 2009. Please welcome Mitchell.
Thank you. Can everybody see me? Good. My name is Mitchell Perey, and hypnotherapy is the baseline of all these different topics, and I'll be explaining why. But before I do, after we've just had that nice relaxing meditation, I'd like to ask you to prepare to relax again for a couple of minutes. And so if you just kind of get comfortable again, close your eyes, and as you relax, I'm also going to ask you to allow me to take your imagination on a little trip as you relax and you breathe in, and as you breathe out, you can just kind of blow away any anxiety that there might be in your life, and you breathe in and you blow out any anxiety, and as you get even more comfortable, and this is just going to take a minute, I want you to imagine that you're at home in your kitchen, and you've just taken this big yellow lemon out of the refrigerator. Now imagine you can see that lemon, you put it on a plate, right on the counter, and as you look at it, you can kind of see droplets of liquid on it, and you can see that big, beautiful lemon.
You have this microphone on. Hang on. Give technology a moment.
Can I breathe now? No.
See that lemon.
Is it on now? Now. Now? Yeah! Okay. Now after all that excitement, let's relax again. Relax again. Please take a deep breath, and again just blow out anything that interruption might have caused. And now you feel all smooth and comfortable again. And back to that lemon that you took out of the refrigerator, and it's cold, and you put it on a plate right on the counter, and you look at it, you can see the droplets on the lemon, and as you look at it, you pick up a knife, and now you cut the lemon in half. You open it up, and the juice is coming down, and this is quite a lemon, and as you see that lemon, you see the juice coming down, and then you take your knife, and each of those halves you slowly slice again. And you slice it, and now you've got those 4 pieces of that beautiful big lemon just sitting there, and as you look at them, you kind of inhale, maybe pick up one of the pieces, and bring it up to your face. You can kind of smell it. Maybe you can kind of taste it. That lemon is as real as if you were at home right now in your kitchen. And now in a moment you're going to be opening your eyes slowly, and as you do, you're going to be opening your eyes and feeling really good. Feeling actually better than you felt, even though it's such a beautiful day and you're feeling so good. Now as you open your eyes feeling good, that was just a little hint of what your imagination can do so easily over such simple things. And your imagination really is at the heart of your experience in the state of hypnosis. And has anybody ever been hypnotized? Anybody ever see a hypnosis show at a nightclub or on TV? Now those shows are a lot of fun because people do things you wouldn't expect them to do. And the reason that they do that is because their inhibitions have been lowered. If they're in a nightclub and they've been drinking and they're partying, they're with friends, and they volunteer to be hypnotized, and then they're hypnotized, and then I saw a great show. One of the people was told to go to the bathroom and bring back everything that wasn't nailed down. Poor thing, she came back like this. And another one was told she had to go to the bathroom, but she couldn't open her zipper. When she came back, she was really distressed. Why couldn't they do it, or why did that happen? Simply because they were willing to allow it. Because that's the thing about hypnosis, is it is all self-hypnosis. I, as a clinical hypnotherapist, that means that I know how to use the state of hypnosis of people, how to induce them, and how to help them to achieve whatever goals we have agreed on. And I have no control over anything. I teach them self-hypnosis. I help induce them into the state of hypnosis, which is mostly a state of mind where your mind is highly focused on something and ignores everything else, or pretty much ignores everything else. I mean, your mind is still alert, thoughts still come, and your mind has got one little part, which is what we're using right now, the critical mind. This critical mind is the part that thinks, asks questions, makes judgments, has fun. And I know when I was growing up, we were told that you only use about 10% of your brain. And couldn't imagine, why would we have so much brain if we only use 10%? And what modern science has learned is this critical mind, that may well be the 10% part, but that other 90% isn't there to fill up the space. It has another purpose, which is really awesome. Anybody here into multitasking? Anybody a multitasker here? Multitaskers, they use this little critical mind, and they do 2 things at once or 3 things at once, and thinks it's a big deal, which it might be, because it's really hard to do any more than 1 thing at a time. But you, in your system, have got about 100 trillion of your own cells. Every one of those cells is there for a reason, and it's got a job, and it's doing it. 100 trillion transactions, different things going on all the time. Things that you can't imagine, that science can't even imagine, but enough that science knows about with your allergies, your blood going here and there, oxygen going in, and food going in, and how it all gets converted, and it's all these 100 trillion cells doing their job, and who's the boss? You are. You've got your own central processing system, your own computer that is not only managing 100 trillion transactions all the time, those are just your cells. You also have in your system about another 100 trillion cells that are not yours. It's maybe 2 or 3 kilos of bacteria, virus, various other miscellaneous things. We don't have any idea what they are, but they all have a job, and their job is to work with your system. And so that's like 200 trillion transactions you're doing all the time. Anybody here not think they're good at not multitasking? I think so. And I also know that this is such a complex machinery. Excuse me for calling it machinery, but that's the best I can think of. And it's all operating, it's all got its instructions, and it's all got its supervision. And as you go through life, things that happen and changes occur, and your cells reproduce. The old ones die off, the new ones replace it. And as this goes on through your life, this wonderfully complex machinery, on occasion, it makes mistakes. And I see a lot of men here with white beards. I know they weren't born with white beards. And I know that probably when they first grew them, they weren't white. And every one of us has probably got a wrinkle or two somewhere. And there are these mistakes that have occurred in our system, and as time goes on, they multiply. And more time goes by, they keep multiplying, and we keep getting older. And the physical changes and the mental changes are all stages of life as it goes on. And life does have its stages. And as we go through the stages, the changes occur. And some of these changes can be very difficult or very painful. And we learn things about ourselves. Some of them we like, some of them we may not like so much. And what we do know about this incredible machinery and this incredible system inside of us, it doesn't function on critical thought. And it doesn't really respond very well. Like if you talk to yourself and you say, like somebody wanted to quit smoking, and says, okay, I'm ready to quit smoking, and they didn't. And why not? Because they couldn't convince the machinery to make a change. The machinery has, as part of its operation, these cogs and wheels and who knows what as they're going along. One of those is the smoking cog. And so the system has this in it. Therefore, it's part of your life. And to change the machinery is not easy. And this is one of the major things that I have learned. I started learning about hypnosis when I was 11 or 12 years old. I got a book, and it was so interesting, I got another book. And I kind of started practicing and learning self-hypnosis and learning about what was known about it. And time went on and life went on. And there came a time when I had had an automobile accident and was suffering constant pain. Now this constant pain I was suffering, the doctors gave me narcotics and I took the drugs to kind of control the pain. And there was an ad in the newspaper about a weekend course on self-hypnosis and learn how to do certain things. One of them was pain management. So I went. And we had two teachers, one of them, Linda Cooper, PhD, told us about an experience that she had had, very unfortunate. She was in her little Triumph sports car and stopped at a light, and there was a big truck in front of her, and a big truck came up behind her, slammed into her car, turned it into an accordion. She was in the middle, and subsequently, among other things, she needed spinal fusion surgery. She did this without chemical anesthesia. Using self-hypnosis, her knowledge of hypnosis, and her great courage, she did this without introducing any chemicals into her body, and that was the basis of where she was coming from on learning pain management. Well, I, having practiced all these years, got picked out pretty quickly as a guinea pig for the class, and I was a subject right in front of the class, and I was the first subject, and I told her what was my problem, and so I was hypnotized, and then within a few minutes, she gave me some suggestions. I was in a rather deep trance state, fortunately, and I was able to accept her suggestions, And then she touched me on the neck and said, now, when I lift my finger, the pain will go. Now, touching me like that is what's known as a technique that's known as anchoring. And it made a physical connection between the suggestions and my reality. And as it happened, the result was I did not take another pill, starting right then. Why? Because it was my system that was suffering, and using her knowledge of hypnosis and how the system works, she was able to just, in no time at all practically, help to release the suffering. Now, what is pain? Some people think that pain is a signal to your brain from your body. Something goes wrong, you get hurt, and a signal goes to warn you you've been hurt, so that you're aware of it, and you can deal with it. And the way you deal with it, of course, is your inner computer dealing with it, and your healing system, it sends different kinds of cells to do different things, maybe coagulating, maybe whatever they do. Your internal system, it got the signal, something's wrong, got to fix it. And it gets right to work on fixing it. That's your inner MD. All healing that occurs in you, you do. Doctors help. Medicine helps. Operations help. I'll tell you, I've had enough operations that I wouldn't be standing here if I hadn't had them. But after the operation was done, my inner MD, my healing system, had to go to work and heal whatever the problem was, as well as healing the trauma from the surgery. And I was able to do it. Why? Simply because I got this great, great computer. Now, everybody has that same great computer. Everybody has problems of one type or another that occur during your life. Some of them can just sneak up on you. Some of them can be a sudden sabotage. I've seen so much of that in my practice, and also in studying. I've been really fortunate to be able to have studied with some of the really great geniuses in the field of hypnosis and hypnotherapy. One of them, named Gil Boyne, was the first to set up a hypnosis school in San Diego. The American Council of Hypnosis Examiners, Hypnotist Examiners, and I had a class with him, a 40-hour class on pain management. And we saw some videos, some that had to do with other problems. One of them was of a woman who was grossly, grossly overweight and couldn't lose any weight. No matter what she did, no matter what anybody did, if you sewed her lips together and put her in a closet for a month, she still would not lose any weight. Why not? Good question. A big part of what we do as therapists is investigative hypnosis. We help someone into the state of hypnosis where they are relaxed, their mind is focused, and we use the imagination. In that case, the way the imagination is used for investigation purposes is age regression. Now, in your inner system, the connections between this 90% of your brain are more emotional than anything, and is able to use the emotion she has now and track back when did you first feel it. And this wasn't just done in 20 minutes or one session, but watching the videos, we saw her get to a point in her life when the aha moment occurred, and there she was as a toddler, sitting on Grandma's lap. Grandma said, "Look at Uncle Timmy, he's so skinny he looks like he's going to die." She didn't want to die. And what the therapist did was, using her imagination, edited the video, edited the memory, and in effect cut out part of it and replaced it with a similar part, and it was, Grandma says, "Look at Uncle Timmy. He's so thin he looks great." And it was like a switch was snapped and she got control of her life. And another cause, a great cause of problems like uncontrollable obesity. It's all self-defense. So many of the women in therapy found out that they had been abused as children or even as infants. And they made themselves deliberately have a big protective shield. And working with the understanding that when someone comes to me, we talk about what's wrong, what's hurting you, what do you need to fix, and we'll decide on a certain goal or a certain number of goals, very specific, and so our relationship is clearly defined. I will bring you into a very deep state of relaxation and suggestibility. That means receiving suggestions. Now, while we're doing this, your critical mind is not going to be analyzing what I'm doing or saying, because we've talked about this, and you know that the critical mind has to keep quiet and let me talk to the subconscious. Now, in order that critical mind is a gatekeeper, and one of its biggest jobs is protecting the system. So it doesn't let somebody in because they might mess things up, and it can't afford to take a chance like that. So we develop a level of trust, and then in the state of hypnosis, going right into that state is where the person is allowing me to talk to the subconscious. Critical mind is listening. And we're doing so well, and you're so deeply hypnotized, and I say, and now you will write me a check. Oh, no, I won't. And that's it. That's the end of the whole thing. I have to know precisely what I can say, what I can't say. And what I can say must always be in the person's specific best interests, and specifically in the interest of achieving the necessary goal or goals. Simple as that. And that's largely what my training has been, understanding how to deal with so many different things. Now, in 1988 or 89, when I started with this first class, I was given a scholarship to continue with the training, and I earned credentials all the way up to what I have now, which is clinical hypnotherapist. There's one higher level which I don't care to go for, which is as an instructor of other hypnotists. I've never wanted to do that, and I'm very happy with what I know and what I can do. And what I can do is help anybody achieve any realistic goal. I can't help you run a 4-minute mile, but I can help you improve your tennis game, your golf game. I can help you improve sleeping. I can help you change certain things that are so fixed in your personality, like insomnia. That's a real challenge for a lot of people. And there's things that I know about what is called insomnia that really isn't. Like some people sleep for maybe 3 hours or 4 hours, and then they wake up for a couple hours, and then they go back to sleep. That's not insomnia. That's just segmented sleeping. And it happens, especially as we mature, a lot of us get like that. And okay, so just learn how to do it, how to deal with it. I read a lot in those hour or two spaces in between. But some people really have insomnia, and there's something very different about their brain. Most of us, when we get ready for bed, we go through whatever our routines are, and all of these routines are part of our preparing to settle down and go to sleep. Real insomniacs do quite the opposite. They may be brushing their teeth, putting on their pajamas, and what they're doing is getting revved up for another night of anguish. And they're not going to sleep because their brain is turned around. And helping to turn back the system is a way of dealing with that, and it is one of the more challenging conditions to deal with. And other conditions, like people that smoke. Anybody here ever smoked cigarettes? Anybody here ever quit smoking cigarettes? Anybody ever start again? And why do we start again? because maybe part of the reason is because we weren't really ready to stop or willing to stop. I mean, your cigarette's your best friend. When I talk to people that come to me for smoking cessation, we'll just start right like that. Why would you want to abandon your best friend? Your cigarettes never lied to you. They're always there for you. Hey, they told you they'll kill you. They didn't tell you how much you would suffer, but they told you they would kill you, and you said, oh well, I'm a smoker, and that's my life, and that's my self-image. I'm a smoker. And a smoker who stops smoking is a smoker. It's like they say about alcoholics, that if they stop drinking, they're still alcoholics. Why? Because there's something about your self-image. And a smoker who becomes an ex-smoker, they're still defining themselves by the smoking. And when I work with people, they don't become ex-smokers. They become non-smokers. They remember when they were 8 years old. They didn't smoke then. They remember when they were 10 years old. They didn't smoke then. And so we use this as a ground level maybe and help work on changing something in the machinery. Here you've got this cog that's going, that's the smoking cog. And it's just going. And if you put the cigarettes away, it's still doing that. And so what we have to do is change it. We can't take it away because it's part of the machinery. What we can do is change it. And maybe the way we change it is instead of going this way, it's going to go this way. Or maybe it's going to go this way. But whichever other way it's going, it's not the smoking way. It's the mystery way. Sometimes we like to give people something to fit into that mystery and say, okay, here's a nice smooth rock. Rock the rock. Here's something to do with your fingers. And so now it's going like this. There is no smoker in the person's self-image. That's gone. It's not something that we do in 5 minutes. Sometimes it takes a half an hour. But when we do it, we're done. And the person is as clean and clear as if they were 10 years old once again. Now the system's not that clean, but it starts healing, and it's working on healing all the time. Your body is working on healing all the time. And you suck the poison in, and your body has to fight with it. But when you stop sucking the poison in, then your body is healing, and it's not getting poisoned again, and it keeps healing, and you keep getting better and better. And the statistics are very lovely, how the odds on you getting a stroke, getting a heart attack, having worse cardiovascular problems, all the things that we know smoking does to you, your odds of getting those results start going down the minute you became a non-smoker, the minute you became your own old innocent self inside. Now you've got a lot of gunk in there. I mean, these tubes that you've been pouring all the poison past, they're all gunked up. And the gunk gets hard, and in your tubes, there's these little wiggly things. They've gotten stiff, but now they're getting healed and getting looser and getting looser. Some people start coughing and coughing. They say, hey, I didn't cough like this when I smoked. And I'll tell them to expect that, because that's just a sign of getting better. Now with pain, you have basically two types of pain. You got the critical pain when you break your arm or something happens. And then you've got the chronic pain. Now both of them can be relieved a great deal. The relief is by lowering your suffering. I can't take away the condition. I can maybe help to liven your healing centers. We do a lot of that with healing processes, some of which are thousands of years old that come from the Orient, some of these healing processes. And so we fire up your healing system and use that to reduce the suffering. So what was pain? It was not the signal from the nerve to the brain. The pain is what your brain does with that signal. And what the brain does with that signal, instead of it being, oh, that hurts, we make changes in how the brain reacts to it. So here's that, oh, it hurts, and it's real easy to get into the habit. real easy. And you got your neck pain, your back pain, various pains that you had for a few days, and it became a habit. Changing habits, breaking habits, is really one of the baselines and one of the best things that I do in helping people. There's lots of information on hypnosis and hypnotherapy. And if you want to look for hypnotherapy.mx online, that's my website, which was very professionally put together, and there's lots of interesting and valuable information there. Also contact information if you want to talk to me about any questions or any issues that you have or might wish to deal with. I'm local, I'm available. I put some flyers out that have some information, but hypnotherapy.mx is an easy way to find me and to find a way to resolve something that may have been a problem forever. Who knows? Maybe some people bite their nails and wish they could stop. There's all kinds of things that you wish you could stop, all kinds of irritating habits you may have picked up. One woman, a snowbird, came to me like 10 days before she went home, and her problem was the pain in her neck was so severe she couldn't even move her head. How long has she been going through this? Since 1985.
Dear me.
She had no idea she could get help. You know, people go to the doctors give them drugs, and more, and then a different drug, and then a different drug, and they get to the point where the doctor says, I'm sorry, you've had maximum dosage of everything possible, and you're just going to have to learn to live with it. That's a life sentence that nobody wants. And that's kind of typically the time that people will be referred to a hypnotherapist. Somewhere around 2 to 5 years after they started suffering. And what the hypnotherapist does is help them to reduce the suffering. And reduce the suffering substantially and easily. There's no strain, there's no work to do it. You just sit quietly and address the problem, address achieving the goals, and the goal is ultimately to be pain-free. Part of being pain-free is healing yourself. Part of being pain-free is reducing the suffering enough to improve your life. And then you feel better. And you get better. And that's probably kind of the bottom line for me is feel better, get better, and I'm happy to help. And now it's time to see if there are any questions. Thank you.
If you have a question, please raise your hand. A mic will be brought to you, and the same thing will happen. You'll put it really close to you. You'll ask a question. Not too much commentary, please. We really want to find out what more he knows.
My question is, does it matter what pain level you're at? Like, for instance, if a person is at, usually they say your pain level is between 1 and 10. If someone is at a 2, can you help versus someone that's at an 8?
First, let me say that the description you give for measurement is a faulty one that the medical establishment uses. From 1 to 10. Because what that means is you're always suffering. Because that's what 1 is. It's a pain level. And we don't do it that way. We say from 0 to 10. And the answer to your question is yes, and it surprised me. The first time I gave a talk like this, I had a volunteer who was in chronic pain came up, and I asked about the level, and he was a 2. And I said, oh, great. He's a 2. What am I going to do for a 2? But what I did was I asked him, okay, now imagining the reduction, what percent would you say that your discomfort, notice I didn't say pain, what percentage has your discomfort gone down? He says, oh, about 70%. So yes, even a 2 hurts. I mean, and so I'm as happy to help somebody at a 2 level as somebody at an 8 level, because they all get relief almost immediately.
See, where do we have mics right here.
Okay,
back, yes.
you've talked about the individual and hypnotherapy, or I'm wondering if you've worked with groups, and if we could take up a collection and send you to the White House.
Not allowed to comment on that. One of our rules here. No comment.
The client has to wish to change.
Right here.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. Right, can everyone hear me? My question is more, you focused on physical pain, physical conditions, and I wonder, do you work as well with emotional, psychological conditions? Let me give you an example. I'm a writer, and I suffer often from a block and a difficulty finishing projects. And I am aware that those difficulties have psychological and emotional origins. I have worked with psychotherapists, and it hasn't worked. So I'm wondering, if I come to you with this issue, what can you do for me?
What I do is called intervention therapy. I don't lay on a couch and start listening to you or talking to you. What I do is talk to you about what the problem is, what the issues are, and then while you're in the state of hypnosis, we look for causes, or mainly we're looking for resolutions. And so the answer to your question is yes. It's a kind of thing that I have addressed and would be happy to do in the future. It's all in your brain. Even the physical things, it's all in your brain.
In the back.
A couple of things. Can hypnotherapy help with arthritis pain and also with lowering blood pressure?
Yes to both, strangely enough. And part of the way is in getting you in contact with your healing system and potentiating the healing. Because you know how when you're younger especially, you can see this. You got sick, you went to bed, you got your rest, you got better, you get up and go about your business. A lot of things we don't get so better from anymore, and they stay in your system. Arthritis is one. And reducing the suffering of the pain or the discomfort is not that difficult, and we do that regularly. Lowering your blood pressure is more a matter of helping you to heal yourself. Whatever the causes are, I won't know, and we won't even look for causes. Psychotherapists look for causes, doctors look for causes, hypnotherapists look for solutions.
Right here.
Oh, hi.
Wait.
I'm just
Hi.
interested in the state of unconscious. If a person gets into the level of unconsciousness, and I've been through it just last year, what happens? How can you get out of it? How can you take control of your ability to heal yourself? In the meantime, the doctor's shoving all kinds of medicine down you.
That question is really outside of my scope of practice, because if you're unconscious, my own experience basically is that you're still aware of everything that goes on, you hear everything that goes on, but how you deal with it or the reasons why you're unconscious have an awful lot to do with the answers to that. In some situations, the answer is yes, you could be helped by talk therapy. Other cases, no, I just wouldn't know unless actually confronting a specific situation.
Any other questions? In the back.
I actually have more of a comment because I'm also a hypnotherapist, and I just wanted to say about the emotional pain connection to the physical, because someone asked about, do you work with psychological, emotional pain? I had fibromyalgia for 12 years, miserably, and nothing worked, and I did a lot of holistic therapies and psychotherapy, and when I got certified as a hypnotherapist, I started having memories of really young childhood abuse, and boom, 75% of my pain went away very quickly after 12 years. And then the other 25% I continue to work on. So I really encourage people to, consider that whatever kind of pain you have, it can be helped. And it's often related to physical pain.
Thank you, and I'll tell you just real quick, one of my mentors and teachers in pain management was a fellow who had had an accident on a motorcycle, and his arm, the shoulder, was pulled out so hard the nerves were pulled out of his spine. He was in screaming pain with this for 5 years, at which time he got involved with a hypnotherapist, and he not only lives with it, but it has no control over his life, and he is able to be a master instructor himself from his own experience. I personally also have some, personal experience that gives me credentials in overcoming pain, which go back to before I even started my hypnotherapy formal training. I was run over, and my spine was broken. And nobody would have guessed that looking at me walking up here or standing up here, and it has no effect on my life. There's no suffering involved with it. It healed as it healed, and I'm done.
Right here.
You don't talk about your failures. I was always told I was a very poor subject for hypnosis, and of course it never worked for me. So tell me about your failures.
Well, first I'll tell you about people that it never worked for. Everyone who ever spoke with me and said, I can't be hypnotized, I would say, it sounds like you can speak English. And as far as I am concerned, anyone who speaks English who is willing to be hypnotized, we talk about what it is and why. Anyone who is willing to be hypnotized, I've hypnotized. Now, am I able to say that I'm 100% successful? Of course I could say it. It wouldn't be true, but what the truth is, some situations are more complex, more difficult, more challenging than others, but they can all be resolved if the client wants the result.
Hi. 1 year ago, an MRI showed 2 orthopedists that I needed surgery on my knee. I took the MRI to my acupuncturist, who said, oh, they all say that, you need surgery. Said, we could fix that. I said, okay. So he put needles around my knee, and after a few sessions of acupuncture, the pain was gone. So I figured the knee was healed. What I'm curious about, was it the acupuncture, or was it my willingness to believe that the acupuncture could heal my knee that actually healed the torn meniscus?
There's no way to break that down into segments. I'll tell you that your willingness to be healed, the acupuncture could have been a panacea, that you believed it would work, so it worked. It's possible, it's also possible that the acupuncture itself does certain things to your system that help your healing centers, that potentiate the healing, and help you to cure yourself.
Okay, last question.
Quick question. After a car accident about 20 years ago or so, I went to biofeedback because I was in terrible pain. I'm a control freak, so I could only get to a certain point in the biofeedback and couldn't go past other doors or boulders or whatever it was that I needed to do. Couldn't work with it. Does that mean I would not be a candidate for hypnotherapy for my pain?
Oh, no, you would be an excellent client. Excellent. You're a control freak? We'll help put you in better control.
Thank you for your talk. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you next week. Please turn on your cell phones if you have any interest in doing that. Pick up your cups, your chairs, stack them. And if you can take your conversation out front, we'd appreciate it as we close up.